to welcome to our Tuesday Sangha again. So we will be continuing from verse 49 onwards today. I'll start with prayers. Om Ajnanatimmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. So we are at a very interesting point in this Katha of Chitraketu Maharaj that we are discussing since past few weeks. As we discussed in previous verses, that how Chitraketu Maharaj was blessed with everything but a kid, but a child, but offspring. So that was his reason for misery or sorrow, despite being beautiful, wealthy, most powerful person, like a samrat and the king, the very powerful king, and having millions of wives, but still things didn't work out. He couldn't get a child to so that his lineage will have a successor. And in this anxiety, he was in this anxiety, was sad, and one day that specific word we were discussing, right? Suddenly Angira Muni came to his palace and looking at the situation of the king, seeing that he's beyond consolation, or he cannot be convinced with philosophy about how sticking to this desire may not be beneficial ultimately, and he blessed king with a boon so that he can get a child, and he gave the pot of milk, sweet or yogurt, that was given to him by Angira Muni to one of his queen, Kritaditi, and she became pregnant. They got a child, and then life was festival for the king. Everything was nice after he got a child. But as per the prophecy of Angira Muni, that this child is gonna be Harsha Shoka. So that was the time of Harsha. Everything was nice. He was very happy. He had a healthy and happy kid, a successor for his kingdom. And now, and now, from the now the now the now the Shoka part crept in. The attention that king was given to the baby, the child, and the queen was unbearable for his other millions of queens, and they decided to kill him. So I was hearing in one of the class of Radha Govind Swami Maharaj that this material envy and material greed can really take over you. कामेश क्रोधेश रजोगुण समुद्भव mahashano mahapapma vidyena iha vairinam. So it can really take over your wisdom and make you do abominable things. So same happened with the other queens of Chitraketu Maharaj, and out of envy, out of greed, they end up killing the child by poisoning him, for which Chitraketu Maharaj was trying so hard to get a child, and they killed that child. And now situation has turned around. Harsha has turned into Harsha is completely turned into Shoka at this moment. And so this is like a classic example I remember from Chaitanya Charan Prabhu's class, that he was quoting someone, and he was telling that that philosopher, he quoted that life is um, ultimately life is only about deciding uh, when to commit suicide, something like that, very very dark quote. And then Prabhu explained that, yeah, this is the result of materialism. Strong materialism or strong attachment to material life ultimately leads to nihilism, where where one feels that everything is meaningless and nothing makes sense. And the worst solution, like uh, suicide, attracts someone. So same happens with Chitraketu Maharaj. He was extremely attached to the child and the happiness he was getting from it. But now once he dies, everything turns around, and now in the coming verses we'll see like how he expresses his sorrow, and uh, then how Angira Muni and Narad Muni come into the play. So we will start reading from text 49. I think we have readers Vallabh Chaitanya Prabhu, Jagannath Gopal Prabhu, and Nitya Mataji. So who can start?
I can start, bro.
Yes, Prabhu. Jai Vallabh Chaitanya Prabhu.
Hare
Thank you.
Krishna.
Nice to have you back. Yeah.
Yes, Prabhuji. Text 49. Tato nirpanta purvartino jana narascha naryascha nishamya rodanam agatya tulya vyasana sudukhitas tascha vyalikam rurudu kirtagasaha. Translation. O King Parikshit, hearing the loud crying, all the inhabitants of the palace came, both men and women. Being equally aggrieved, they also began to cry. The queens who had administered the poison also cried pretentiously, knowing full well their offense. No purport for this one.
You want to say something on this verse?
Uh, so, what I'm thinking is that rest of the people who came and who gathered, they were genuinely crying. They were feeling the pain. They could feel that. Whereas the queens who came and they also started crying. So it is very difficult to know from outside, that who is genuinely showing their emotions and who is potentially doing it, unless it is very internal and only Krishna knows that what is the real intent behind those external emotions. So even though as a devotees we should try to be para dukha dukhi and para sukha sukhi, feeling happiness in others' happiness and feeling grief when others are in grief, without being duplicitous, showing externally. Yeah, that's all came in my mind, bro.
Yes, Prabhu. Yeah, I mean, like, thank you for highlighting that point, Prabhu. Like how how duplicity makes you act in a very bad way. We can say that the they are pretending to be sad. In a way, they are mocking the sadness of their own husband and the queen with the duty, uh, that they themselves killed the child, and now they are crying also, and trying to pretend like, if we, since we are crying so much, how we can be involved in this, something like that. So yeah, this Gaur Kumar Prabhu many times talks about being integrated. So this is like exactly opposite to that, like that they have one thing in mind and they are doing exactly opposite. So um, Yeah, so this again just shows the when person is materially motivated, how he acts and how he thinks, and yeah, it's tough to figure out what's going on in the mind of someone. Yeah, next verse.
Prabhuji, can I
Anyone
just
else
add
want
one
to
point,
comment?
Prabhuji? Just one point, not
Yes.
exactly on this verse, but the introduction that you gave, very
Mhm.
nice introduction. You talked about depression and ultimately leading to suicide and all that. And in the Bhagavad Gita itself, the first chapter is called Vishada Yoga. So the word Vishada means someone who just sits and does nothing, and like they're completely depressed, and they just want to end this life. But in that situation also, the word yoga is used. So in such circumstances also, if we really want, it can be a wonderful opportunity to connect to Krishna, even in that depressed state, which is what we see in Chitraketu's pastime also. Like he
Mhm.
was extremely depressed. And at that time, either we can do it of our own accord or we can pray. And as the word Yadrichaya is used, so Angira Muni and Narada Muni actually came there at that time and helped this king, Chitraketu, elevate his consciousness. In fact, the guru could have given that instruction in the beginning itself. But because he was so attached to having a child, he said, okay, take this, then you will get kicked and kicked by Maya in one sense, and then you will ultimately be ready to receive this message. So the point is that when we become depressed, that we can actually connect to God in a very, very powerful way. Every situation in this world, whether you're extremely happy, extremely depressed, neutral, there are always opportunities for connecting to God. So,
Mhm.
thank you.
Thank you for bringing up that. I mean, it's that gist of it, Prabhu, the very important point. So I have small like follow-up question about this. Uh, so like as you said, like we every possible situation can become a big reason to become a devotee or surrender to the Lord, which makes perfect sense for the Chitraketu Maharaj. And the verse that Artha, Artharthu, Jigyasu, Gyani, cha Bharatarshava.
Yes.
One is Artha, like desperate for something or suffering. In that case, those kind of people also take shelter of Krishna. So, Prabhu, like if one is Artha, and I mean, both person are Artha, but one decides to take shelter of Krishna and other decides to commit suicide. So, what makes the difference? Both are in very extremely sad situation and don't know what to do. But
So, yeah.
yeah.
So, thank you, Prabhu, for this question. I mean, I don't know. I'll just say what I know with my limited understanding. One is you become very, very self-centered in the first case where the person becomes depressed. You become so self-centered that it's only about you and nothing else. Just keep putting yourself so much down and putting the self-pity and everything comes and it's just that, why is this happening to me? Why me? Why me? Why me? So if we stop that mentality and if we start thinking outside, if you start thinking outside and start connecting with a higher source or with some devotees who can help you understand that this is not the end of the world, you don't have to keep thinking about yourself. Of course, it's okay to think about yourself, but don't put yourself so down, but do something else that will elevate you, that will elevate your consciousness. So again, it comes down to selfish and selfless. We may not become so selfless initially, but slowly we will start to learn how to become uh, more selfless and connect to the supreme self. So that is the idea. I think many times I've seen students who are even like in our college, we see many students who are depressed, and when I interact with them, I see that it's all about them. It's all about them that they're talking about. Then when you help them think outside, like think of something else that you could have done or someone else that you could have spoken to, then they finally come out of it. That's a big leap of faith, you can say, but most people don't come out of it. Uh, Going to God is the highest, but even to come out of their state is not easy. So I hope that helps, Prabhuji. I don't know.
Yes, yes, Prabhu. So even as a devotee, Prabhu, sometimes this happens that some devotees also go into depression and
Yeah,
then to
very
take
much.
shelter of therapy and like some
Yes.
medication.
Yes.
So then what is missing in that case?
So the missing thing there is, so in the life of a devotee, we see that many times people have been chanting for 30 years and still there is no improvement, or maybe from previous lifetimes also, but still there is no improvement. I was
Mm.
telling somebody over the weekend that there are 3 stages. One is you get into this comfort zone where you think that everything you're doing is perfect. You're chanting your rounds, you're reading a little bit, but it's just becomes very, very mechanical, and you feel that you're in a comfort zone. The moment you feel that you're in a comfort zone, it is said that it is actually the mode of ignorance. It can actually lead you to depression if you don't work on yourself. So then that is the C of the comfort zone. Then there is the C of the crisis zone, where sudden crisis happens and then suddenly you go up and then again you come back to the comfort zone. So that is the mode of passion. The crisis zone is the mode of passion. But for us as devotees, we always have to be in the creative zone. That's the third C. So if
Mhm.
you're in the creative zone, then we are always thinking of how creatively we can serve Krishna, how creatively we can serve Vaishnavas, how creatively we can assist in the movement of Srila Prabhupada, like that. If we think in that way, then we won't be in the comfort zone or the crisis zone. And then what will happen is, eventually, when the difficulties come, you will be able to overcome it very easily. You will not always think about yourself because you are not in the comfort zone, you're in the creative zone. And then you'll start elevating your consciousness to connect to Krishna in a very wonderful way.
Mhm. That was really profound, Prabhu, that how the comfort zone is, it drags you to like tamas, to
Yes,
the mode of ignorance.
yes.
It is so profound. Yeah,
Many
thank you.
times we think that, okay, we just have to keep doing the routine. And the routine also, the way the mind works is very, very tricky, Prabhuji. Even it makes you think that you're doing everything perfectly because you're doing everything. Now, all the check boxes are done. I'm chanting 16 rounds. I'm going to office, coming back. I'm doing my work. I'm earning salary, taking care of. You get into a comfort zone. But comfort zone, what will happen is you're not pushing yourself uh, enough that when the crisis comes, when the difficulties come, you will not be able to overcome it easily. Then you'll easily get into depression. Actually, you'll easily get into
Yes.
depression.
Mhm.
So that is the idea. So really push yourself now when everything is going comfortably. Push yourself, stretch yourself a little bit. I'm not asking you to stretch yourself too much. Stretch yourself a little bit to go into the creative zone. Then it'll help.
Yes, yes, Prabhu, yes. Yeah, comfort zone, crisis zone, and creative zone. Very helpful. Yeah. Yes, yes, Megha, please.
This is very useful. Thank you for this, this demarcation, this clear classification. Um, so, can you give like a practical example? How can we stretch ourselves? Let's say I'm chanting, and then it becomes mechanical, really. My mind is wandering because I'm like very comfortable now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like what's one practical tip,
Yeah,
Um,
this is a
yeah.
great question because I've also asked this question to some senior brahmacharis about how to come out of that comfort zone. So then different people told me different things. So you have to be creative in the sense that, so let's say I'm chanting 4 rounds, okay? So I create like an Excel sheet and then I start rating my own japa, like how is this round going? How is the, so be creative in the sense that you start assessing yourself or do something different. Don't sit in the same place that you sit every day for doing your japa. Just move a little bit to the left, move a little bit to the right, have a different view of the altar, do something that is slightly different so that it avoids you into getting into that mode of ignorance. Does that help, Megha?
Yes, I think so. Yeah,
So
yeah.
someone even
So,
told me, like many years ago, Radha Vallaprabhu, a senior brahmachari. So he told me that because we get so mechanical that we keep moving our beads in the right hand, right? So he said sometimes what he would do is he would chant in the left hand because then it would improve his attention towards Krishna, something different. And every day Mangalarti, same position he would stand, but standing in a different position, doing something creative and praying. And sometimes you can pray also for being creative, and that helps you come out of that comfort zone, and that helps your mind again start to focus on what is essence, the essence. Otherwise the mind can play tricks and, okay, comfort zone, I'm just going to sit in this position, chant 16 rounds, and after 2 hours, it's done. Next activity, like that. But nothing has, there's been no connection with Krishna at all. I was reading about Madan Mohan Mohini, the Mataji who passed away because of muscular, what is that disease called? She was 19 years old and she passed away. Muscular?
Dystrophy.
Trophy.
Yeah. So she, so I was just reading her journal of devotion. It's a diary, it's a book. And there she says that she really worked on, even in the final months of leaving this world, she was very creative in terms of, she created a YouTube channel. She just wanted to be creative, and that gave her hope, that gave her happiness, and that put her in the right conscious. Otherwise, she could have just been mechanical, done the same things, and she was not finding happiness there. But the moment she started being creative, she created a whole web page, Instagram account, and it's all available now. It's called Mohini's World. So she did whatever she could with a lot of pain and a lot of tiredness, everything. She didn't know when she would die, actually. So like that, as devotees, and even in our professions, I think getting into a comfort zone is actually very dangerous. And many times we think that comfort zone is good, but comfort zone is actually unhealthy in the long run. Any?
I guess,
Thanks for
yeah, this one small addition. Too much of comfort zone is bad, as well as too much of stretching creativity is also, that
Yeah.
will again
Yeah.
fry us out. So I guess it's balance. We have to.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely too much of anything is bad. But the point is that when it comes to spirituality, we just tend to easily get into the comfort zone. When it comes to work or taking care of family, we get into creative zones. Today we'll go to this hotel, tomorrow we'll go to this thing, today we'll cook that, today we'll automatically the creativity comes. But when it comes to spirituality, immediately we get into the comfort zone. Yeah, I'm going to get into this comfort zone. If I'm chanting at midnight every day, 12 o'clock, whatever. Okay, it's a comfort zone for me. I'm just going to do it. But I'm not going to stretch myself and say that I'm going to wake up early tomorrow and chant or do something like that, where I really stretching myself a little bit for Krishna. That will not happen. Typically, I've seen.
Prabhu, I have a question on the topic of being in a, not necessarily a comfort zone, but the mechanical zone. So in terms of like reading, if you get into this mechanical reading phase where you're just just counting pages and finishing your allotted pages for the day, is it, what should you do in that case? Like, is it okay to take a step back and maybe stop reading for a while so that you miss reading and then you go back to it, or just keep doing it? Or how can we be creative in that sense?
So it depends. It varies from person to person, I feel. There's no general answer here. But the point is that you should absorb what you're reading. If you're not able to absorb what you're reading, and if you're just going by the externals of finishing your quota without absorbing anything, then that is not ideal. Then clearly it is a comfort zone. You can easily assess that. How much am I absorbing? How much am I connecting to Krishna while reading this particular pastime? So over the weekend, several of us, we met, and then we read from Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela chapter 7, the pastime of Vasudev Vipra, and we were able to churn so much on the verses that we have read probably many times, because we were all being creative. And devotees here, like Vallabh Chaitanya Prabhu was there, Jagannath Gopal Prabhu was there. We were all being creative, and we were able to churn the nectar out of each verse. So similarly, when you're reading, what I like to do is, when I read a verse, I take a pause, press the pause button, and then try to see what else can I get out of this verse, out of the box. Like, let me think more, like how Megha asks questions, right? Practical questions. So what can I get from this verse? How can I connect with Krishna better? Just take a pause and start thinking like that. Then that will let you come out of the comfort zone.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Sorry, Prabhu.
No, sorry, Prabhu. Yeah, please go on. This is really interesting. Very interesting, Prabhu. And so that do something that is slightly different, like that's what Prabhu just said. That slightly different, some little creativity can add a lot of, can add a lot of interest and taste in your day-to-day sadhana. That's why even I remember Radheshyam Prabhu also, like during his japa talks, many times he will give various tips to chant your rounds, like how you can focus on each word, like how you can vary your tone on every word, like various kind of tricks and tips, so that one can focus on the chanting. So yeah, these small things can really help in the long run. And I have some points to make about the creativity and Krishna consciousness. Like it's one of the name of Krishna is Jagannataka Vaibhava. That means like he's very expert at like he's very expertly creative. Jagannataka Vaibhava. Krishna's the drama of Krishna's creativity is everywhere. We can see in the creation of material world, spiritual world. He's dealing with devotees, his pastimes. And since Jiva is also part and parcel of Krishna, he is also creative by nature. And when one is stagnant and not creative, that goes against nature of Jiva. And then that's why we may suffer because of not being. It said that like all the arts, all the sangeet, all the arts, everything is coming from the gopis, who are the most creative persons, and they are creative for the service of Shri Radha and Krishna. So they compose most beautiful songs, they play most beautiful music, they write most beautiful poems, they cook best of the best food for the service of Krishna, and that's how the inherent creative nature is utilized in Krishna's service. And so so did Srila Prabhupada, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. The whole purpose was to open a Gaudiya Matha or ISKCON and engage so many devotees in varieties of services, was to engage their creativity somehow or other in Krishna's service. So I think this is a very practical and very important point for someone like us who are into the both worlds. So being we get naturally creative in our material lives, as Prabhuji said. Giving some little thought of being creative in spiritual life will really help all of us.
Yeah, so just one thing, this very nice lecture of Radheshyam Prabhu, because you mentioned the lecture is called Taking Baby Steps for Intensifying Sadhana. Yeah, if you search that on YouTube, you'll find it. Taking Baby Steps for Intensifying Sadhana. And also he talks about Bharat Maharaj and how Bharat Maharaj also got into like a comfort zone, and he had no association, and that was one of the causes for his downfall. Even though he was doing puja every day, it was the same thing he was doing every day. It got monotonous. Then a deer came, then he got attached to the deer. So so being creative in our sadhana is essential. I'll send if you want, I can send on the group. I have a Japa Reform notebook, and then we can all do it for 15 days or something, and then it'll improve our Japa. So I'll send that. If somebody can remind me, I'll send it at the end of this session.
Sure, Prabhuji. Yeah, that will be really great. Thank you. Yeah. Anyone else have any comments? Okay, we'll move to verse number 50. Nitya Mataji or Jagannath Gopal Prabhu.
Jagannath Gopal Prabhu, would you like to read? I'll go to the next verse. Thank you.
Sure, Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Yes. Okay. श्रुत्वामृतं पुत्रम् अलक्षितान्तकं विनष्टदृष्टिः प्रपतन् स्खलन् पथि स्नेहानुबन्धैर्धितया शुचाभृशं विमूर्छितो नु प्रकृतिर्द्विजैर्व्रतः पपता बालस्य सपादमूले मृतस्य विस्रस्त शिरो रुहाम्बरः दीर्घं श्वसन् बाष्प कलो परोधतो निरुद्धकण्ठो न शशाक भाषितुम्. Translation: When Chitraketu heard of his son's death from unknown causes, he became almost blind. Because of his great affection for his son, his lamentation grew like a blazing fire. And as he went to see the dead child, he kept slipping and falling on the ground. Surrounded by his ministers and other officers, and the learned Brahmanas present, the king approached and fell unconscious at the child's feet, his hair and dress scattered. When the king, breathing heavily, regained his consciousness, his eyes were tearful and he could not speak. Yeah. So nothing specific, but yeah, one thing I guess, just by reading the kind of emotional manifestations that Chitraketu is exhibiting here, can show us that the more we are attached to something, that much intensity of pain we will experience when that thing is taken away from us. So it's like said in Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna tells Arjuna that for a person who has been honored, dishonor is worse than death. So something like that. Chitraketu was so attached to his son that his attachment was so intense that the grief that he experienced was also proportionately intense in the opposite direction. So yeah, that's pretty much I can think of here.
Yes, so true, Prabhu. Yeah, proportionately intense. Yeah, his joy was intense, and now his sorrow is also intense. Thank you for mentioning that. Anyone else have any comment on this? Okay, we'll move to next verse. 52nd.
Yes. पतिं निरीक्ष्य रुचुरार्पितं तदा मृतं च बालं सुतमेकसन्ततिं जनस्य राज्ञी प्रकृतेश्च हृद्रुजं सती दधाना विललापसच्चित्रदा. Translation. When the queen saw her husband, King Chitraketu, merged in great lamentation and saw the dead child, who was the only son in the family, she lamented in various ways. This increased the pain in the cores of the hearts of all the inhabitants of the palace and the ministers and all the brahmanas. Yeah, this shows the agony of the mother, especially when after many years. After many years have passed, and then they had a child, and they have to lose the child after getting attached emotionally and physically to the baby. Yeah, it is said that it's the worst thing that anybody can see is the death of their own child. And we could see how both the father and the mother are lamenting over this. And also it shows how great the king is, that all the inhabitants of the palace and all the ministers and all the brahmanas are also feel the pain, and it shows how loyal they are and how trustworthy King Chitraketu is, that they didn't have any envy. When there is envy, when others suffer, we feel a sense of happiness. Oh, this is not such a great king, so let him suffer. It's all karma, and so on. But in this case, it looks like it goes both ways. All the inhabitants as well as the king, they both equally share the pain. I'm going to say equally share, but I guess they feel the pain of the king and the queen, and yeah, this is a very, very intense, heavy moment when we think about how it would have been in that court, to see, to witness that scene in our minds. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, Mataji, for giving on this, mother's perspective, how grave and deep this situation is, and also thank you for like the explaining the second line. Like I would have missed on myself completely that the ministers and the brahmanas and the inhabitants of palace were also extremely sad, which shows like how much they were connected to Chitraketu Maharaj, and since he was able to be appreciated or respected by, genuinely respected by all of his subjects, this just shows the exalted character of Chitraketu Maharaj. Yeah, thank you, Mataji, for sharing that. Anyone else have any comments on this? We'll move to next verse. Vallabh Chaitanya Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu. Stanadvayam kukuma pankamanditam nishinchati sanjana bashpa bindubhi vikirya keshan vigalatsrajasutam sushocha chitram kurari vasushvaram. The garland of flowers decorating the queen's head fell, and her hair scattered. Falling tears melted the collyrium on her eyes and moistened her breast, which were covered with kumkum powder. As she lamented the loss of her son, her loud crying resembled the sweet sound of a kurari bird. I think here they are just explaining the graphic details of the painful expression of the queen and the scene that is going on there.
Yes, well, yeah, very graphic scene, true. Anything else? Anyone like to add on this? Yes, so we'll go to next verse. Yeah, 54th. Jagannath Gopal Prabhu.
Yeah. Aho vidhatastvam ativa balisho yastvatmasrishtya pratirupam ihase parenu jivatya aparasya mritir viparyayashchet tvamasi dhruvaparaha. Translation: Alas, O Providence, O Creator, you are certainly inexperienced in creation, for during the lifetime of a father you have caused the death of his son, thus acting in opposition to your creative laws. If you are determined to contradict these laws, you are certainly the enemy of living entities and are never merciful. Purport: This is the way a conditioned soul condemns the Supreme Creator when he meets reverses. Sometimes he accuses the Supreme Personality of Godhead of being crooked because some people are happy and some are not. Here the Queen blames Supreme Providence for her son's death. Following the creative laws, a father should die first and then his son. If the creative laws are changed according to the whims of Providence, then Providence certainly should not be considered merciful, but must be considered inimical to the created being. Actually, it is not the creator, but the conditioned soul who is inexperienced. He does not know how the subtle laws of fruitive activity work, and without knowledge of these laws of nature, he ignorantly criticizes the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, yeah, Kritadyuti is cursing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Also, in this, we see this in Mahabharata also, when Gandhari curses Lord Krishna, that this everything happened because of you. So she curses him that, I don't remember I think she curses him that your entire lineage will be wiped out.
Right, yes.
Yeah. So yeah, this is, and then Prabhupada very nicely says that this is the way conditional soul condemns the Supreme Creator when he meets reverses. So actually many atheists that are there today in the world, their argument towards atheism is this: if God is, as you say, is a merciful creator, then why is there suffering in the world? Right? If there is suffering in the world, that means God is not merciful. And if God is not merciful, then what is the use of having such a God? Right? They go one step further and say that God actually does not exist. So this is one of the conundrums that every theology has to answer in terms of you describe God as being compassionate, you describe God as being merciful, you describe God as being concerned about the welfare of others. So how come there is suffering in the world? And here Prabhupada is saying that it's not actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but it's the living entity himself or herself that is to, in one sense, blame for the Supreme Lord has created the system, no doubt, but then that doesn't mean that anybody can do anything as per their whims. So yeah, there are subtle laws of karma, as Prabhupada writes here, and subtle laws of karma are at work every moment for everyone. So yeah, without understanding that, if we curse, I guess the thing to understand is whatever reversals we face in life are I mean, we kind of have to try to kind of understand that understand what I can do in this, to what I can learn from it, what I can do in this situation to alleviate this suffering or whatever, or what lesson can I learn that can spiritually uplift me, rather than just blaming the creator or something like that. But of course, this is a mother we are talking about here, so it's the emotion that is taking precedence over any kind of philosophical thought process, which is quite natural for anyone. And even Chitraketu himself is in this kind of a position right now. So it is, yeah, I mean, but yeah, the extent of the grief that Kritadyuti is facing here, it is evident from this verse where she's cursing the Supreme Lord himself. So I guess that's pretty much it from me.
So can I add one point here, Prabhu?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So again, here the benefit of Grihastha Ashram is that sometimes what can happen is one spouse can get very critical like this, or start blaming the Lord, or get into a negative, you can say, negative environment or negative thought process. So at that time, it's the responsibility or the duty of the other spouse to correct them and help them look beyond what they're going through. So I feel that is, if we practice this, then it will really help us grow together as a couple. And this happens all the time. When one spouse becomes negative, the other spouse also, if they also become negative, then you get into that spiral, and you both of you are pulling each other down actually. But if one spouse is negative and the other spouse actually thinks of elevating that soul, then it will help. So I want to share one personal example here. So when we first heard about Radhakripa's condition, so Nitya was extremely devastated as a mother. Like she was like cursing, blaming our deities and everything at that time. But I totally understand as a mother, to hear that your child is disabled and has a heart condition, which is very critical, and the doctor is asking us to abort. It was a very intense situation for a mother. So at that time, what I did was, I'm not saying this to praise myself or anything like that, but I'm just sharing something that happened, and Nitya can correct me. What I did was, I knew that we had to take shelter of devotees. We had to take shelter of devotees. So we went to New Jersey and immediately got into the association of our closest friends, Sundar Gopal Prabhu and Sakhi Mataji. They came, spent time with us. And so that at least reduced the pain a little bit. And then immediately I sent an email, even though Nitya was not in favor of me sending an email. I sent an email to all the Vaishnava devotees I knew, asking them to pray for us, seeking blessings. And as soon as we did that, then the next morning itself, we started feeling good, because the devotees' prayers are extremely powerful. So the point again here is, I could have also gone into that negative mood and said that and blamed the Lord, and both of us could have just, gotten lower and lower. But the fact that one spouse can help the other spouse in these situations and make them think of the Vaishnavas and Guru and Krishna, that is where this comfort comes in. So I just wanted to share that. Hare Krishna.
Like Hare Krishna, thank you, Prabhu. I mean, I don't have a better word than thank you, but thank you for sharing this very deep experiences and considering us close enough to share these with us. I mean, they're really helpful. How a devotee, the person who is following for many years and honestly trying to serve Lord and Guru Maharaj, how they think in the most intense moments of life, and hearing about those can really help every one of us. So thank you so much for sharing that, Prabhu, that how devotee shelter helped, that how it magically changed the situation next day, and how one spouse can help others. I think these situations are pretty common when there's one spouse and another spouse, the things are not in balance. So yeah, this is very helpful. And so yeah, accuses, yeah, and yes, and about this, Prabhu, I had some a little one follow-up question, that even the materialist people or materially affected people or distressed, they also blame Providence, that Providence is not perfect or Krishna is crooked, and it's not intelligent enough. That's why how could a son die before a father? And this way the Krita Yuti is blaming, and same is case sometimes we see with the devotees also, like gopis are condemning Lord Brahma because they have eyelids and they blink and they cannot continuously see Krishna. And there are many other examples as well here, like devotees condemn Brahma or creator or providence but it's related to Krishna. So how we can see this? We just want to hear more on this from all of you. Yeah. Gaur Kumar Prabhu.
The materialist, sorry.
Yeah, yes, Prabhu, please.
Sorry, somebody was saying something. Was it?
No, I said, yeah, I was just taking names. Yeah, please speak. Someone, please say something on this. Yeah.
The materialists blaming the providence takes them away from providence, but the gopis blaming Lord Brahma takes them closer to Krishna. That is, I guess, the difference.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean that I start blaming demigods from tomorrow. But they are at a very high level of consciousness, and for them it might be okay. They are even much higher than Brahma himself. So yeah, I guess any situation, I guess any, how should I put it, insight that we get, the spiritualness of that insight can be judged as to whether it takes us closer to Krishna or away from Krishna. Yeah.
Yes.
So I guess that is the stark difference. They are blaming Brahma is taking them closer to Krishna, but some materialists blaming the providence is actually taking them away from Krishna. They will become more and more averse to Krishna consciousness, more and more averse to worshipping Krishna, practicing bhakti or anything. And yeah, that is the difference.
So do you think, Prabhu, is it okay if I blame Providence that you didn't make me rich enough, or you didn't make me like smart enough to learn like all the devotional things quickly, or you didn't make me like focused enough so that I can chant my round in a best way. If I blame providence for these things, is it okay? Or uh, or yeah, what should I be thinking?
So,
You just
interesting
yeah.
question.
Mhm.
Interesting question. I think if I am doing what I'm supposed to do in the present in the best possible way, right? Yeah, best possible way at the level of gopis or something. If I've given my life completely without any tinge of selfish motive, then maybe I'm saying maybe I'm not. But yeah, I mean, rather than blaming the Lord for, let's say, not giving me the ability to chant purely, how about working on making my heart purer, through this thing? So I guess we have to be brutally honest with ourselves as to what is the center of our wanting things. Is the center my own ecstasy? Okay, forget about ecstasy. It starts with my own profit, adoration, distinction. Then at after even after the desire for profit, adoration, distinction goes away, we might feel that, oh no, I am practicing, I'm chanting the holy names, but why am I not getting ecstasy? Why am I not getting tears in my eyes? Right? Uh, why am I not, why are my hair not standing on end? We start expecting that ecstasy, which is also wrong, I feel, because in that expectation of ecstasy also there is a kind of self-centered motivation that I want ecstasy out of my spiritual practice. But I guess the the gopis consciousness is completely selfless. They don't want anything for themselves. They are not seeking pleasure out of they are worshipping Krishna. In fact, they are ready to burn in hell for giving little pleasure to Krishna. For alleviating Krishna's headache, they are ready to burn in hell for that by giving the dust from their feet. Right? None of the other devotees were ready to do it. So I guess in Gopi's case, it is very clear that they have given everything to Krishna. They don't have even a tinge of selfishness, and this is true with all pure devotees. So I guess we have to be brutally honest with ourselves as to why am I expecting something, whether it is for me or it is easy to say that I want. So even I pray sometimes to Krishna that please give me this material comfort. I'll be able to practice bhakti better. But am I making any excuse? Because I am still considering myself in the center, right? I want that comfort, and indirectly I'm saying to Krishna, you give me that comfort, only then I'll be able to serve you, right? I'm making it a business transaction like that. But at my level, maybe it is required also. But as so that point about going a little bit out of our comfort zone is very good, because if we go too much out of our comfort zone, if at my level I start behaving like the gopis, then that will be like utpat, that will just be like you know complete nonsense. At the same time, I cannot stay in my comfort zone forever and think that, oh, everything is nicely going on. So I guess that's the thing about baby steps towards Krishna, right? We push ourselves little bit out of the comfort zone. We keep pushing ourselves little until we come to the point of pure selfless devotion. I guess that's the way I see it. So yeah, as for my own level of spirituality, I can't blame Krishna for not giving me the ability to do so many spiritual things, or chant well or whatever, because I know that I am to blame. I'm in this mess because I created this mess for myself through my previous karma. So there is no point in blaming Krishna. I can pray that he gives me the strength to overcome that, rather than blaming him. Yeah, that's how I see it. I don't know, devotees can add.
Yeah, very well said, Prabhu. Very nicely explained that it's selfless nature of great devotees, and in our case, it may be some creeping desire in heart which changes the situation. Yeah, very nicely said. Thank you. Anyone else? Megha had some question, I think.
Um, yeah, like I sort of forgot my question, but because I was listening to the conversation. Like my question basically was, this verse is classic case of, or like this whole situation is like classic case of impermanence of this world, right?
Mhm.
Like, and that's why like it's important to be detached to some degree, because anything can happen anytime, and there's no point of really blaming anyone, because that's the nature of this world, like, and then that's why we want to transcend it. But
Right.
practically speaking, like, how do you live with this realization that everyone's gonna die, like the people you love, like my partner is gonna die, like, like it's very, what do you say, difficult sometimes, um, and instead of like, what do you say, detachment as a motivation to be detached, it can lead to like too much attachment rather, uh, you know
Mhm.
so I don't know, I really think about it sometimes.
Like a
So
rebounding
this,
effect, you mean? Like you try to be detached and then you see yourself being more attached. Is it like that?
you value it more to some extent,
Mhm.
uh, so that's a good thing. But like, what do you say, there's something called as delayed gratification. But then with this thing, uh, with this realization that things can happen anytime, like, uh, like this delayed gratification thing, sort of, I find it very hard sometimes to practice this delayed gratification, or like have patience in like personal relationships, like specifically, uh, you know uh, because I'm like, anything can happen anytime. I don't know if I even make sense. So what I'm saying is like this realization of impermanence of this world doesn't really bring peace sometimes. It
Mhm.
rather leads to too much attachment, you know.
Mhm. Yeah, I think I have heard about this same question someone asked Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. And here, I mean, when he's here right now in Bay Area, something similar. And he says that even like if you see, uh, even like the demons or most materialistic people will also be detached. They will be so detached from everything else, and they will like work very hard in the during weekdays, and on the weekends they will party hard. So they detach themselves, they give up the sense enjoyment to enjoy more. So that is like a detachment in the mode of passion or ignorance, which will ultimately lead to suffering. So the detachment with certain pure understanding in the mode of goodness will eventually give us satisfaction or happiness, I think. But if it's in mode of it's just to uh, enjoy more or achieve more or satisfy more and more desires, you for some time hold back, then that may not be that helpful. Not sure if I exactly answered your question, but if anyone else have any comments on this, please share.
Yeah, I think the confusion, like practicing detachment, comes from the confusion of a confusion, basically the, what do you say, the root cause of confusion is that I think I don't even understand detachment when it comes to loved ones. Like it's
Mhm.
easy to be detached from material thing, but like not our loved ones. Like in this case, for example, although we know that people are going to leave us, and a kid might die before a father, even then, like this, I don't know, maybe I don't even understand detachment. How do you get detached?
But I think being attached to your
You
loved
don't get
ones,
detached, Mother.
yeah, being
Sorry. You can complete, Vamsidhar Prabhu.
yeah. I
I'll
just wanted
speak
to say like
afterward.
being attached to your loved ones is a good. Actually, it's a soul's nature is to love. So if you are affectionate towards your immediate loved ones or your friends in a good way, in a positive way, that's a good thing. I mean, but again, yeah, more can be said about this. Yeah, Prabhu. Jagannath Prabhu, say what you wanted to.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that we don't have to detach from loved ones in the sense of what you call it, Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya kind of detachment, where we see that. So I guess the detachment that is talked about, at least in the Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna starts talking about detachment, he says that you are trying to be attached to the bodies of your relatives, and that is what is causing this anxiety to you. So he starts off with giving the knowledge of the soul, right? So I guess the thing here is detachment from loved ones. It doesn't necessarily mean like an indifference towards them. It means detachment means to go beyond the bodily connection to understanding that they are also spirit soul. Like we say, right, Vidya Vinaya Sampane Brahmane Gavi Hasini Shuni Chaiva Shvapake Cha Panditaha Samadarshina. One who is actually advanced in knowledge sees a dog eater, an elephant, a cow, a brahmana. He sees all of them equally. So what does that mean? He sees the spiritual spark in all of them. Now, if the spiritual spark is there in all of them, then why can't we see that spiritual spark in our loved ones also, right? So I guess the way I see it always when this kind of question comes up is we have to see whether we are loving our loved ones for our as on a bodily level or on a mental level or on a spiritual level. And one easy way to love someone on a spiritual level is to understand that they are a spirit soul, they are the children of God, and they have been given in my care. So it is but my duty to love them properly, to give them all sort of nourishment. And now if we have that consciousness, we are automatically detached from the bodily level, because now we are actually thinking that they are the children of God. We are looking at them on the spiritual level, definitely. And that I think that way you are doing justice towards them, towards yourself, on the highest platform, that is a spiritual platform. So I guess for me, the detachment, when it comes to family detachment from family, I don't see it as an indifference as to, oh, this is something that I have to give up eventually, or this is something that is going to be taken away from me eventually. So let me be indifferent, let me be unaffected by it. That is not how I see it. Maybe I'm wrong in the way I'm thinking, but that is how I would like to see all my connections. In fact, we are all sitting and discussing today. If we were to think that, oh, this is a nice intellectual titillation, so many devotees come together and we discuss this, acha hai, man ko maja aa raha hai. But then if we look at it on that level, then once we all die, which we are, I mean, our bodies are going to die at some point, then there might not be this life of devotion group. Although I really hope and pray that our next generation takes this ahead, this particular Tuesday Sangha. But it may not happen, we don't know. But then the thing that stands out here is we are not connecting to each other on the bodily level. We are connecting to each other on a spiritual level, and with God in the center, with Bhagavatam in the center. So that is what makes us makes this Sangha different than any other gathering, materialistic gathering. So I don't know if I made sense, Mataji. You can correct me.
No, definitely. Totally. Thank you. That was very insightful.
So I just wanted to add one point here. So our goal of our practices is not detachment, Megha. So I think that is where the confusion is coming. So never have anyone on the bhakti path said that you must be detached. You must be detached. The goal is to attach to Krishna so that automatically the detachment comes as a side effect. The goal is not detachment. So just to illustrate this, Prabhu, can you open up Srimad Bhagavatam 769, Canto 7, Chapter 6, Verse 9. and just read the purport. It clearly answers Megha's question. Yeah, just go down a little bit. See, okay, you don't need to just read the purport. You go down, go down.
Yeah.
Go down.
Okay.
Just save time. You can go down, Prabhu. There's a famous verse. You can go down. Go down, keep going down. Yeah, just from that paragraph to return home. From there, yeah, to return.
Yeah.
Read.
Yeah, to return home, back to Godhead, one must be completely free from material attachment. Therefore, Bhakti Yoga means Vairagya Vidya, the art that can help one develop a distance for material enjoyment. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Janayatyashu Vairagyam Jnanam cha Yada Ahetukam. By rendering devotional service unto the personality of Godhead Shri Krishna, one immediately acquires causeless knowledge and detachment from the world. If one engages in devotional service from the beginning of life, he easily attains Vairagya Vidya or Asakti, detachment, and becomes Jitendriya, the controller of his senses. One who perfectly engages in devotional service is therefore called Goswami or Swami, master of the senses. Unless one is master of the senses, he should not accept the renounced order of life, sannyas. A strong inclination for sense enjoyment is the cause of the material body. Without full knowledge, one cannot be unattached to material enjoyment, but as long as one is not in that position, one is not fit to return home back to Godhead.
Yeah, so in that one sentence that Srila Prabhupada makes here, if one engages in devotional service from the beginning of life, he easily attains Vairagya Vidya or Asakti detachment and becomes Jitendriya. So the goal is not to become detached. And as Megha very rightly said, that the more we start thinking, I don't want to smoke, I don't want to smoke, I don't want to smoke, your mind is already thinking of smoking. So that's why if your goal is detachment, then you'll never be able to detach yourself. But if your goal is attachment to Krishna, then automatically this detachment comes as a side effect. And we have all seen this when we are practicing for a few years. We'll automatically see this, that many of the other things that we were attached to before, we are not attached to them anymore at all. And it's come as a natural side effect. It's not that we focus that we should become detached and then we became detached. And as far as our loved ones are concerned, which was the main question that Megha was asking, and as Jagannath Gopal Prabhu also mentioned so nicely, the goal again is not to become detached from our loved ones. The goal is to attach them also to God so that we don't completely get attached on the bodily platform. And that attachment can actually cause pain. And as we see in this particular pastime of Harsha Shoka, anything that causes you pleasure has the equal potential to cause you exactly the same amount of pain in this material world. In this material world, that is the characteristic of everything. Everything that is matter has this characteristic. But that's why if we attach to the spirit, as Jagannath Gopal Prabhu mentioned, or attach to the Supreme Spirit, then it becomes easy to detach. Hare Krishna.
Amazing, Prabhu. Yeah. That it's bodily attachment which causes, and not the example we sometimes give, just adding to what Jagannath Prabhu and Gaur Kumar Prabhu said, that sometimes we give example of we are just temporarily given ownership of whatever wealth we have, whatever family we have, and for that time, considering it Krishna's property, Krishna's people, we can take care of them, love them in the best way possible. But since it's temporary, I mean, as we move from one rented house to another, the transition will take place at some point of life. But till then, we should love them, take care of them, and in the best way possible. Anyone else want to say anything on this? Okay, we'll move to next verse. 55th. It's who's next?
Yes, Prabhuji, I'll read 55.
Yes. Yeah.
Nahi kramaste deha mrityu janmano Saririnam nastu tadatma karmabhi Yashnena paso nija sarga vridaye Swayam kritaste tamimam vivirshati. Translation. My Lord, you may say that there is no law that a father must die in the lifetime of his son, and that the son must be born in the lifetime of his father, since everyone lives and dies according to their own his own fruitive activity. However, if the fruitive activity is so strong that birth and death depend upon it, there is no need of a controller or God. Again, if you say that a controller is needed because the material energy does not have the power to act, one may answer that if the bonds of affection you have created are disturbed by fruitive action, no one will raise children with affection. Instead, everyone will cruelly neglect his children. Since you have cut the bonds of affection that compel a parent to raise his child, you appear inexperienced and unintelligent. Purport. As stated in Brahma Samhita, Karmani nirdati kintu cha bhakti bhajam. One who has taken to Krishna consciousness, devotional service, is not affected by the results of karma. In this verse, karma has been stressed on the basis of karma mimamsa philosophy, which says that one must act according to his karma and that a supreme controller must give the results of karma. The subtle laws of karma, which are controlled by the supreme, cannot be understood by ordinary conditioned souls. Therefore, Krishna says that one who can understand him and how he is acting, controlling everything by subtle laws, immediately becomes freed by his grace. This is a statement of Brahma Samhita. Karmana nirdati kintu cha bhakti bhajam. One should take to devotional service without reservations and surrender everything to the supreme will of the Lord. This will make one happy in this life and the next. Yeah, this is like a nice kind of supplemental to what we are all discussing. It's a very nice, deep discussion points today about death of a loved one, detachment, how we attach ourselves, and the detachment comes as a side effect or a byproduct. Yeah, here the the Queen Krityaduti, she continues that to tell to she's telling the providence, which is indicating that she's pretty much very upset, and it's very we say that, right? Like when we get so much affected by the reversals, it's easy to quote things when we are in a normal phase of life, but when the reversals hit, it hits really bad. And even though we know a lot of philosophies, because we lose that sense of discrimination of what's right, what's wrong, because it has attacked us somewhere that it hurts. At that point, we don't really see what's right, what's wrong, and what does Krishna want to do. It does not even sometimes occur. But with the only hope at that point is the association, like Gaur Kumar Prabhu said. And it just yeah, it's one thing when we are suffering from our own physical pain. It's totally different thing when when the pain is related to our beloved person, or somebody who we love so much, and that person is suffering, or something is happening to that relationship. It's completely different. We may be easily able to take shelter of Krishna when we suffer from our own physical pain, but it's very hard at that point to connect to Krishna immediately, at least from my personal experience. Of course, this is not a generalized statement, it's just from a personal experience. And there are several devotees who are always constantly at the level of deep Krishna consciousness, that were able to take shelter no matter what the situation outside is presented to them. But yeah, it's I think the point is that always we don't know when the reverses will hit us, and we have to make use of the time when the sun shines in our lives, to go deeper and to not be very lukewarm devotees or lukewarm in our sadhana, to just deeply go to that point where we really connect. If it is just one verse from Bhagavatam that makes us realize that like what Krishna really wants me to understand from this. If we keep that in our context, and we always think of every situation, every even normal situation, or even a very ordinary situation, what Krishna wants me to learn, then automatically our mind will remind us of that when we are hit with the reversals of to think that like that, what Krishna wants me to learn from this reversal. Otherwise, it's just going to be a deep kind of a dip in our spirituality, and then to climb back up, it's going to be really difficult. But if you're already down in that level, it's going to be much easier. Is what I kind of get from all of this. Yeah, here Prabhupada is talked about Karma Mimamsa philosophy, and how one who has taken to Krishna consciousness, it's not that it's not affected by the results of karma, even though it may outwardly seem that, I mean, even the greatest of devotees, they have to suffer. We saw in the lives of many devotees who have departed recently. So we know that the karma has to take place, but the pain will be there, but the suffering will not be that much, because the consciousness is at the higher level. I guess that's what Prabhupada is trying to tell us, that we have to take to devotional service without reservations and surrender everything when the sun shines in our lives. I think that's that line I would like to add, if I can, so that it helps us on the times when we have reversals. Reversals are all inevitable in our lives. One day or the other, it's going to happen, and so we might as well equip ourselves. We enroll ourselves into so many classes, right? Like cooking classes, or learning new languages, or learning for our own professional development. When we put the effort and we pay the amount, we get that skill. So why is it that we can't expect the same thing from our spiritual education? It is possible, but only if we have the, if we were to pay for every time we chant, maybe that seriousness will come. For every round we have to pay $10. Then maybe the seriousness will come, and then we'll really get the benefit out of it. But it is not like that. It's the self motivation, and we can also get something out of this, just like it's always, it's something we can learn and equip ourselves. It's definitely possible, just like we go to any class and equip ourselves. It's possible that we can come to this Sangha, particularly Tuesday Sangha. We can just see it as a class that we take, and then at the end of maybe reading this pastime, the whole pastime, we have learned something. We can equip ourselves with that learning. Instead of just being it like a Tuesday evening, just spending talking something and then forgetting about it. Yeah. Thank you. That's all I wanted to share.
So many beautiful points, Mataji. Thank you so much. Can't thank enough. I mean, you covered a lot of points. Some of them that stick to me is like how reversals can really alter our thought process. But if we are like steady in practicing our bhakti and trying to go deeper and deeper every day and not being shallow, it can so even in the difficult times we can stick to our devotional principles and see the positive side, and how it can, like something like this Sangha is nicely concluded, like you nicely concluded to this session, that how all this reading, this session can help us be more equipoised in any situation of life and make things much better for us spiritually, materially. So thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much for all the points you mentioned. So I think we can stop here for today. Thank you so much, everyone. Like, thank you especially Megha for your very honest and insightful questions. And thank you Gaur Kumar Prabhu, Jagannath Gopal Prabhu, Vallabh Chaitanya Prabhu, Nitya Mataji, for your amazing insights, realizations, comments. And thank you everyone else also for your rapt attention and hearing and all your questions. Thank you so much. Like our every Wednesday Sangha, this is very nourishing, uplifting, and yeah, sometimes it happens that when I join, like I may not be in great mood, but at the end I always feel much better. So thank you so much again, everyone.
Thank you, Prabhu, for
Thank you so much.
wonderfully leading this Sangha and reiterating the points and also asking very insightful questions to the, for spurring up the discussion. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Amshita.
Thank you, everyone also. Yeah.
Hare Krishna.